Welcome to Urban Knife Guy, where we explore the urban lifestyle and jungle survival. And I'm in the jungle once again, and I brought out a collection of multi-tools. And the idea of this video is to actually test out the various saws on the different multi-tools. Now, in different videos, I have shown the different tools. I've even compared some of these saws. But since I've got quite a few of these different tools, I thought I'll compare them across different brands so that if you do get maybe even a different model but the similar brand, possibly the saw would be very similar, and that can give you an idea of the performance. I know a lot of people would be familiar with the Leatherman and the Victorinox saws, both great saws, and I've experienced with these, so I do know how they actually fare and would feel in hand. But I'm not sure about this Swisstech. This is the 18-in-1, kind of a clone of the Leatherman Wave. This is the next to Knight. This is kind of a bushcraft style multi-tool, and I actually did a video where I compared it with the Signal. You can check that out in the link in the card above or the description below. This is more of what I consider a gentleman's pocket tool, and this is the Rossen KS2, but it does come with a saw, so for the sake of completeness I thought, okay, let's just bring it out and give it a shot, even though I would never bring this out into the jungle, even though I have. And of course, just to round it up, I will again use these saws from the Leatherman and the Victorinox just to kind of get a gauge of how it works immediately after using each of these different saws. And I'll give you my thoughts on how easy they're to use, how well the saw performs, and of course the ergos as well, and I'll give some other thoughts as well. So I'm going to use a small little branch. I'm going to use the same branch for all of them. I'll take a bit of a break in between each just so that I'm not too depleted by the end when we get to the last multi-tool, and we'll see how it goes. Here's the results of the saw test of all these multi-tools, and I used the same piece of wood. It's just 1 inch in diameter, so it's not really big. I've compared the Leatherman with the Victorinox knife before, at least the saws, and a lot of people were surprised because I said I felt the Leatherman performed better than the Victorinox for me. And it still holds true today. I would say that I had the best performance with the Signal And maybe the rebar just a bit under because it is a little thinner. But being thinner, it also meant the initial bite was actually easier to cut into. But as I was going through the wood, I felt maybe this was actually better. You can see the signal is slightly thicker for that saw blade. The Victorinox was also good, as you would expect. But for me, to me at least, it didn't perform as well as the Leatherman for me in terms of just ease or effort of going through. Now let's go through the unknowns. The Swisstech, the Nex2, and the Rossen. So the Swisstech, as mentioned, is kind of a clone of the Leatherman Wave. So how did the saw fare, since it's supposed to be a clone? Actually, it was not too bad. I expected it to be bad, but I would say it was not too bad. Not as good as the Leatherman, definitely. So I have to give the Leatherman a 9 out of 10. I would give this maybe a 7. And I'll give the Victorinox an 8 or 8.5, just to give you a kind of a gauge. So it was not too bad. So again, going back to this particular tool, if you talk about price versus the original, this is a 99% clone. There are some differences, but it's really close. But in terms of functionality and performance, it seems to be performing almost as well as a Leatherman. Now, the Leatherman is 4 times as much as this, and this definitely doesn't just perform 1/4 the performance of a Leatherman. It's pretty close as well. So that's something to think about. Now, the next one is this. This is the Nex2 Night, which is supposed to be kind of like an outdoor bushcraft multi-tool. But I would say this saw was the worst among all of them. It was tiring. The bite was all right initially, but as I was going down into the wood, it was just a pain. It was a pain to use. I really did not enjoy using it. I would give this probably maybe a 3 out of 10 because I think a 1 or 2 must be really, really bad. But this really disappointing in my opinion. The Rossen, I expected this actually to be the worst because I see this as more of an urban multi-tool. But I was surprised, even though this is short, the shortest blade among all of these saws, it actually did a pretty good job. In terms of ease of cutting, it bit well and I could cut through pretty well. What is limiting, of course, is the length because it's short, so you need many more motions to really cut through the wood, so it becomes more tiring. But surprisingly an effective saw. I would probably put this at 5.5, 6 out of 10. So definitely a passing grade. So those are my thoughts on really using the saws for these multi-tools. Now, I would never use any of these saws as a primary saw. I would bring a Selkie saw, have a parang, or bring a hatchet if I want to chop or cut wood. But it's good to have as a backup tool, or if you really just want to have a very fine cut on maybe a very small piece of wood, maybe smaller than this. You want a fine cut and you do not want to, chop with a bigger knife, then maybe you could use one of these saws, or at least the good ones, as I've pointed out. But let me know your thoughts and your experiences on multi-tools and the saws. What do you think of the Victorinox, the Leatherman, the Swisstech, the Rossen, or the Nex2? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you liked the video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you like the content in general, please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. Thanks for watching. Talk to you soon.